Before Peter Jackson took us to Middle-earth, he dragged us kicking and screaming through pools of pus, buckets of blood, and enough zombie goo to drown a small country. This is Dead Alive, or Braindead if you're fancy, and from New Zealand. A film that asks the question, what if your mom turned into a flesh-eating corpse, and you tried really, really hard to pretend everything was normal? What follows is a love story, a family drama, a zombie apocalypse, and the bloodiest slapstick horrific comedy ever made. But be warned, this movie is gory, crude, and it damn sure don't hold anything back. If you're at all interested in watching the full movie, and you definitely should, I'll have affiliate links in the description below. But with all that out of the way, put on your raincoats and strap in, because it's gonna get messy. Our story begins on the exotic, highly inadvisable Skull Island. Explorer Stuart McAlden and his local guides are attempting to smuggle out a mysterious creature, the infamous Sumatran Rat-Monkey, a grotesque hybrid born from plague rats and tree monkeys. And apparently that sounded like a good idea at that time. As they speed down a cliffside trail, the caged creature close behind, they were abruptly halted by tribal natives, insisting with great urgency that the rat monkey must not leave the island. The group defiantly resists, and Stuart, in true colonial spirit, brandishes a gun, firing into the air to intimidate them. Surprisingly, the strategy works, to some extent. The natives retreat temporarily, allowing Stuart to seize the rat monkey's cage and hasten away. As they frantically rush back to the jeep amidst the rough terrain, the jostling cage slams into Stuart, the rat monkey biting his hand. The locals swiftly acknowledge the dire situation, their knowledge of the consequences. The jeep comes to an abrupt halt, and Stuart is forcefully ejected. They swiftly amputate his bitten hand and then the arm, striving to stop the infection in its tracks. However, his scratched face reveals the grim reality. The transformation has already begun. The locals, with no time to waste, swiftly eliminate him to halt the spread of the infection. The smuggled-out rat monkey was successfully transported back to New Zealand, the question of what could go wrong still lingering. The scene now shifts to the picturesque 1950s town of Wellington, blissfully unaware of the impending chaos soon to unfold. We are introduced to Lionel Cosgrove, a mild-mannered protagonist who struggles with social awkwardness. Despite his good intentions, he finds himself under the strict control of his mother, Vera. His days pass by tending to her needs, with her micromanaging every aspect of his life, from mere feet away. Lionel secretly harbors feelings for Paquita, the charming daughter of a local Spanish shopkeeper. Her grandmother, renowned for her tarot readings, firmly believes Lionel is her destined partner. Paquita, intrigued by the prophecy, playfully coaxes him into asking her to the zoo.
I like to go with zoo. I go with the zoo.
Oh, no. You want to go to the zoo?
Yes, please.
Oh.
Despite Lionel's concern over Mother's potential disapproval, he finds the courage to accept Paquita's invitation. At the zoo, as he confides his childhood trauma of nearly drowning, she is charmed. Upon reaching the monkey exhibit, Paquita revels in the playful creatures until the shocking and unexpected happens. The Sumatran Rat-Monkey brutally murders one of the monkeys, all for a piece of fruit. The couple is utterly horrified as the grotesque beast viciously tears an arm from its unfortunate victim. The Sumatran Rat-Monkey has a bizarre origin. The creature that causes the infection comes from Skull Island, a King Kong reference. Jackson would later go on to direct the 2005 remake of King Kong, making this small fact a fun bit of foreshadowing. The rat monkey was primarily brought to life using stop-motion animation and a form of claymation. Though it has limited screen time, the rat monkey is the patient zero of the film's zombie outbreak. Horror forums, internet threads, and fan sites regularly make jokes about the rat monkey, saying things such as, "We don't talk enough about how the most evil thing in Dead Alive is like 10 inches tall." There are also other, darker jokes about the little creature being the original Wuhan bat and being referred to as the original pandemic mascot. It's on the internet, after all. It's a place where dark humor thrives. Consuming it with a disturbing ease akin to eating a crunchy granola bar, a zookeeper swiftly retrieves the half-eaten monkey carcass as Paquita, understandably nauseous, requires a moment to sit down. Unbeknownst to them, Lionel's mother, Vera, secretly lurks in the bushes. having followed them all the way to the zoo to ensure Lionel cannot enjoy himself. As she stealthily approaches closer, she accidentally tumbles into the cage of the rat-monkey, promptly getting bitten. Her scream reverberates across the zoo, echoing like a horror movie siren. In a moment of desperation, Vera viciously stomps on the rat-monkey's head, crushing it like a ripe piece of fruit. She nonchalantly dismisses any concern, adamant that she's perfectly fine despite the visible, festering wound. When Paquita kindly offers assistance, Vera aggressively shoves her away, instead manipulating Lionel into leaving his date behind. After all, guilt has a powerful grip. Back at their home, Vera lectures Lionel for his audacity in going against her wishes, leaving him feeling guilty and submissive. He dutifully apologizes, tucking her into bed as the obedient doormat she expects him to be. That night, Paquita calls out from the yard. To avoid stirring Vera's wrath, Lionel quietly sneaks her up to his room, tiptoeing to keep their presence secret. Paquita returns his jacket, and Lionel sadly informs her that they cannot continue seeing each other. As she prepares to leave, he impulsively kisses her. In that moment, fireworks ignite between them as they spend the night together. As if Vera instinctively knew about their connection, shortly after their encounter, Vera's condition rapidly declines. The following morning, Lionel attempts to tend to his mother's worsening infection, only to be confronted by unexpected guests arriving for a luncheon. Despite her declining condition, Vera is determined to host the event. As she applies makeup, the skin on her face suddenly slides off. Acting quickly, Lionel glues it back on, diligently performing his role as a loyal son. During the luncheon, Vera sits rigidly at the table, twitching involuntarily and struggling to maintain a facade of normalcy. Despite her attempts, her abnormal behavior becomes increasingly apparent. She begins to devour meat hungrily, even taking it off a guest's plate, in a manner akin to being possessed by a starving raccoon. The horrified guest's wife watches in shock as the man remains unfazed, demanding pudding. Lionel obliges and brings it over, only to witness the gruesome sight of his mother's infected wound squirting into the bowl. To the wife's revulsion, the man happily slurps it down, seemingly oblivious to the contamination. With great difficulty, she refrains from vomiting as she observes helplessly, noticing the man's seemingly growing enjoyment with each subsequent spoonful. In the midst of the already disturbing events, Vera's ear falls off right into the dessert custard. To everyone's horror, she casually eats it. This is the final straw for one of the guests, who rushes away and vomits. After the guests eventually leave, Lionel finds his mother in the kitchen, savagely gnawing on raw meat. At that moment, Paquita barges in and urgently alerts Lionel of an ominous warning. Dark forces are gathering against him, according to her grandmother's readings. Given the recent bizarre occurrences, her words hold a chilling credibility. In the midst of their panicked conversation, Paquita's little dog wanders off upstairs, followed by frantic barks. They rush upstairs and discover that the unthinkable has occurred. Vera has consumed the dog.
God, Mum!
Oh, Fernando!
Yes, eaten it. As they stand in horrified shock, Vera attacks, and Lionel falls down the stairs with her. Paquita races to call for assistance. While preparing to take Vera to the hospital, she unexpectedly dies in Lionel's arms. However, the tragedy takes a horrifying twist as Vera inexplicably reanimates. Vera returns from the dead as a grotesque undead monstrosity and instantly ends the nurse's life. Upstairs, Paquita is still oblivious to the danger, diligently packing a bag for the newly deceased patient. Let's talk about Vera. After her first death, Elizabeth Moody, who originally played her, stepped aside for most of the zombified version. From this point on, Vera is portrayed by a rotating team of stunt performers, puppeteers, and actors in full prosthetic suits, depending on how rotted and deranged she's looking in any given scene. The makeup alone for some of Vera's later stages reportedly took between 3 to 8 hours to apply, with one performer saying they felt like they were slow cooking inside a latex meat locker. Between the heat, the glue, and the gallons of blood getting reapplied between takes, it was basically a horror-themed spa day from hell. But all that effort paid off, because from here on out, Vera only gets nastier. Oh, and by the way, I have had this image repaused on Live Rent Free in my head since I was a kid. I watched this movie on VHS at my grandmother's house and didn't know the name for years. My child brain thought that this was just a bad nightmare. But I was taken to bed long before the movie gets really bad. Upstairs, Lionel miraculously evades being torn apart, only to be faced with a shocking twist. The nurse also reanimates into a zombie. However, Lionel's quick thinking and the zombie's lack of coordination allow him to trap both of them in the cellar. After successfully locking away the relentless zombies in the cellar, Paquita descends the stairs, innocent and unaware, asking about Vera's whereabouts. Exhausted and lacking lies, Lionel mutters the words, "She went to the hospital." Later, he consults a dubious veterinarian, who also happens to be his uncle, acquiring tranquilizers in a somewhat unorthodox manner. Armed with the tranquilizers and driven by dire circumstances, Lionel returns home, dons improvised protective gear, and courageously ventures into the cellar for a potentially deadly confrontation. Despite the dangerous odds, he manages to tranquilize the two relentless zombies. Little does he know, this moment marks only the beginning of his descent into a surreal nightmare. As the chaos deepens, Lionel reaches out to Paquita and her grandmother, seeking answers to the supposed curse that has upended his life. With an air of mystique, the grandmother places a necklace around Lionel's neck, assuring him it will shield him from the encroaching dark forces. While engaged in a conversation with Paquita, Lionel is suddenly confronted by the gruesome sight of his mother, who violently crashes through the storefront window, having managed to escape from the basement. In a split-second decision, Lionel swiftly tranquilizes her just as her attack is about to escalate. Bystanders, who happen to enter the store at that very moment, miss the tranquilizer's application, and they believe Vera died as a result of a train knocking her into the storefront. A somber funeral is held for Vera, and things take a turn for the worse when Lionel's opportunistic and unsavory Uncle Les arrives, not to bid farewell, but to snoop around for any potential inheritance. Lionel, however, is conspicuously absent from the funeral. Instead, he's on a desperate mission to locate his mother's body, determined to prevent any reanimation before the burial. Unfortunately, by the time Lionel locates his mother, she has already been connected to the embalming machine. Vera is heavily bloated and seeped in green embolic fluid, resembling a water-filled balloon nearing its breaking point. Lionel, in a last-ditch effort, attempts to inject her. With the impending approach of funeral staff, Lionel has no choice but to quickly hide himself. He witnesses the two employees move his mother's bloated and oozing form gently into an awaiting coffin, preparing her for the final farewell. Meanwhile, during the service, Lionel's sleazy Uncle Les takes a seat behind Paquita and shamelessly hits on her, displaying the smooth charm of a sweaty car salesman. Exasperated, Paquita eventually lets loose in her native tongue, leaving him in the dust as she relocates to another seat. In a moment of desperation, Lionel seizes one last opportunity to tranquilize his mother as the service commences. In a heart-stopping turn of events, Lionel is only a second too late as his mother, having punched through her coffin, attacks him relentlessly. In the ensuing chaotic struggle, the two of them crash through a plate glass window, catching the attention of the stunned funeral attendees. Despite the bizarre scene, Vera is still buried, but Lionel's determination knows no bounds. Armed with a shovel, he returns that night to dig her up, driven by some inexplicable compulsion. As Lionel sets to work with his shovel, he suddenly finds himself confronted by a group of rough-looking greasers who are suspicious of his late-night grave-digging activities. The head greaser, in a truly distasteful move, decides to relieve himself, not just anywhere, but directly onto Vera's fresh grave. To Lionel's horror, this disrespectful act sets off a horrifying chain of events as his mother begins to reanimate right before his very eyes. In a gruesome spectacle, Vera suddenly seizes the unsuspecting greaser mid-act and drags him into the grave, consuming him in a savage embrace. Tossing his remains aside like mere confetti, Vera leaves a trail of horror in her wake. The other greasers flee in terror, but unfortunately, one more falls victim to her infected bite. The transmission of the virus proves to be alarmingly fast, rivaled only by the speed of my dwindling will to live. Every Monday morning on my drive to work, the priest shows up like a hidden, unlockable Mortal Kombat character to save Lionel's bacon.
I kick ass for the Lord!
With unparalleled devotion, He unleashes a holy beatdown, delivering divine retribution with brutal efficiency. Despite his valiant efforts, the priest falls victim to the relentless infection, as a stray severed head manages to latch on. In a spectacular yet tragic moment, the priest attempts a graceful flying kick, only to find himself impaled on a statue pointing skyward in a bizarrely poetic twist. Shifting back to Lionel, we find him cleverly feeding the zombies a bucket filled to the brim with tranquilizer-laced slop, potent enough to tranquilize an entire herd of elephants. Remarkably, the undead creatures appear strangely calm in Lionel's presence, though the reasons remain uncertain. The drugs likely play a significant role, but some inexplicable bonding may also be at play. Unfortunately, their tranquilized state comes at a cost. The tranquilizer supplies are rapidly depleting. In a familiar twist, Uncle Les makes another appearance, attempting to weasel his way into Lionel's inheritance. In a disconcerting development, the zombies begin to engage in the unthinkable act of mating. Thankfully, we don't have to witness much of it. It's mostly heard. Les, hearing the ruckus, assumes that Lionel found an old dirty movie collection. Les shockingly takes it all at face value, thinking that Lionel is just grieving in his own weird way. Les leaves, and Lionel gets to break up the two humping zombies, acting as an undead cockblocker. In a bizarre twist of fate, the union of the zombies leads to the creation of a writhing undead infant, possessing bulging eyes and the unyielding strength of 10 sugar-crazed toddlers. This unexpected offspring adds a new layer of terror to their predicament. In a series of increasingly desperate attempts to maintain normalcy, Lionel ventures to a park to walk the undead baby. Unsurprisingly, this outing turns into a chaotic disaster, as the child swiftly escapes its restraints and wreaks havoc. The zombie baby in the park scene was improvised. The zombie baby was not originally in the script, but after seeing how funny the puppet looked, Jackson added the infamous zombie baby into many scenes. The filming of some parts of that scene was shot guerrilla style in a real public park without permits. Peter Jackson filmed the unfolding chaos with just a handheld camera. The zombie baby became one of Jackson's favorite parts of the film, and it's easy to see why. Nearly every scene the psychotic little tot appears in is pure comedy gold. The puppet, though, was reportedly a nightmare to work with, and the crew nicknamed it the Little Bastard behind the scenes. Peter Jackson himself even plays Lionel in some of the wide shots during the baby brawl. All in all, though it was an unplanned addition, it became one of the most memorable characters in the entire movie, and the little dude is now loved by fans around the world. Lionel finds himself engaging in a manic slapstick fight with the little creature, all while horrified onlookers watch in stunned disbelief. Nobody intervenes, as Lionel's unconventional approach to parenting leaves them all speechless. Upon returning home, Lionel finds that Uncle Les has broken in and stumbled upon the undead creatures lurking in the basement. Mistaken for corpses, Les blackmails Lionel, forcing him to relinquish his inheritance. As if things weren't bad enough, Les, in his reckless state, hosts an impromptu party which spirals wildly out of control. In a move that defies any shred of common sense, one inebriated guest decides to open the basement door, unwittingly unleashing the zombies into the festivities. Paquita arrives at the house just in time to witness a wild party in full swing, led by Uncle Les, who proves to be as sleazy as ever, grabbing at her only to be met with a powerful knee to the groin. In her attempt to escape, she darts into the basement, finding the zombies bound and tied up. To her horror, she soon regrets her choice, realizing she stumbled into a nightmare scenario. In a heart-stopping moment, Paquita is attacked by the zombified greaser, but Lionel swiftly intervenes and fends off the creature with a trusty rake. With Paquita's encouragement, Lionel decides to put an end to the nightmare. He starts by injecting his mother, followed by the systematic elimination of the remaining zombies, one by one. To ensure they remain permanently silenced, Lionel buries them all deep within the dirt floor basement. Lionel and Paquita find themselves targeted by Uncle Les, who attacks and sends Lionel hurtling back into the basement. In a desperate effort to assert control, Les drags Paquita into the bathroom, while Lionel struggles below. In a moment of grim irony, Lionel inadvertently upsets the bottle he had used to inject the zombies, revealing the chilling label, animal stimulant. The realization of the terrible mistake casts a shadow of fear over their already dire situation. The ground erupts as the buried zombies rise again, stronger, faster, and way more pissed off. Upstairs, one of the partygoers unlocks the basement door, only to get crushed by it as the zombies enter into the house. The man pinned by the door gets into a fatal tug-of-war match over his own rib cage. Another partygoer's face is degloved in a gore effect that still gruesomely holds up to this day. Awesome. Don't get queasy on me yet, kids. The shit show's just getting started. One by one, the partygoers are attacked and turned. Chaos erupts. Lionel flees into the bathroom, but even that isn't safe. Zombies come through the door. Les, the coward, runs for his life. Now about the sheer carnage that follows. Now, the gore from this point on is legendary, often brought up whenever practical effects in filmmaking are discussed. Dead Alive even holds a spot in the Guinness Book of World Records for the most fake blood used in a single movie. During the infamous lawnmower scene alone, they went through over 300 liters, roughly 80 gallons, of fake blood. The set got so sticky and disgusting that the crew had to hose it down every night just to keep things manageable. Timothy Balm, who plays Lionel, was constantly soaked in fake blood. The guy was a total trooper. He spent days on end, absolutely drenched, while filming the final parts of the movie. The blood was thick, sticky, smelled awful, and even attracted flies and bugs between takes. Balm later said it was one of the most uncomfortable shoots of his life, but also the most fun. And while Dead Alive held the title of goriest movie ever for a long time, the blood-soaked crown was eventually passed on. In the 2013's Evil Dead, in the now iconic raining blood scene, the production used over 50,000 gallons of fake blood, most of it pouring straight from the sky during the climactic showdown. Dead Alive held the most bloody record for about 21 years. Now, because of YouTube's terms of service, I can't show most of the real gore. I'll have to censor it, or risk getting age-gated. But if you want to see the uncensored version, with all the scenes in full color and not in censored black and white, you can find that version in the Members tab. It's just 99 cents to join. And hey, if you're not ready to join, or you're the patient type, don't worry, I'll be releasing all the members-only videos for free around Halloween. What better time to drop other than spooky season? In fact, I plan to make that a yearly tradition. The guests are torn apart as Lionel's house transforms into a full-blown war zone of blood, guts, and flying limbs. One guy gets his lower half gnawed off, like a chicken wing at a dive bar happy hour, yet somehow with no muscle or tendons, he's able to still move his chopstick like legs. Body parts fly, heads roll. Intestines slither across the floor like meat snakes looking for an exit. Believe it or not, this is a comedy movie. The bloodshed is so cartoonishly and over the top, it's a masterclass in practical gore effects. Watching this part of the movie play out, you can just feel it was inspired by Tom Savini. Meanwhile, Les is attacked in the shed by the now undead Kung Fu priest. Due to YouTube's TOS, I can't even describe what happens, not without risking a swing of the band hammer. So let's just say Les takes up dentistry as a new hobby. Paquita and a partygoer named Rita barricade themselves in the kitchen where a zombie was hidden. Paquita slams the zombie into a light fixture, turning it into a grotesque jack-o'-lantern. Elsewhere, Lionel, seeking shelter in the attic, finds a photo of the woman who haunts his fear of water. as Paquita and Rita fight off the relentless baby zombie. Yes, it's back. The situation turns to full Looney Tunes slapstick. Paquita straight up punches the little freaker into the yard, where it bounces off Les and giggles as it runs away. Les is then let back into the house by Rita and Paquita. Meanwhile, Lionel digs through old photos and makes a devastating discovery. The woman in the picture was his father's mistress. And Vera didn't just murder her, she did it in front of young Lionel, which explains his lifelong trauma around water. Lionel falls through the attic like a bloody piñata dangling from a rope. Les, now chasing the zombie baby into the basement, misses all of this. Lionel sees Paquita get bitten, but swings over and yanks the attacker away. It's revealed the zombie had dentures, no bite, no problem. Then the rope snaps and sends Lionel flying out a window, like a conspiracy theorist trying to disprove gravity. Back in the basement, Les is still trying to catch the gremlin-like zombie baby when an enormous, grotesque hand taps him on the shoulder. He turns around and meets the final form of Vera. She's no longer human. She dispatches Les in a way so brutal we only see his death in shadow. But hey, the baby zombies seem to enjoy the show. Just as Rita and Paquita are about to be overwhelmed by the undead horde, Lionel steps back into the house like Ash from Evil Dead, wielding a lawnmower strapped to his chest. What follows is legendary, one of the most iconic gore sequences in film history. He literally mows through dozens of zombies, spraying blood and viscera like it's an Olympic sport. Seriously, there's more red here than a Game of Thrones wedding. Paquita, still holding her own, doesn't notice when a twisted zombified Les attacks Rita. Paquita swiftly puts an end to the perverted Les, popping his dome on the counter like an overripe watermelon. But as Lionel is locked in combat at the front of the house, Paquita witnesses Rita's death, torn apart from the inside by a returning baby zombie. The terrifying little tyke pilots Rita like one of them little alien dudes from Independence Day. Then she notices something. The jack-o'-lantern zombie is on fire. Paquita, with zero hesitation, turns on an open gas line in the kitchen and incinerates the creepy little monster in a blaze of glory. As the flames spread, she reunites with Lionel. The nightmare seems over, except it's not. Vera returns, towering, mutated, grotesque, complete with gnarled claws and stretched skin. She erupts from beneath the floorboards like a demonic final boss. The house is crumbling, the fire is raging, and the two make a desperate escape. They pull a reverse Santa Claus by scrambling up the chimney to the roof. Monstrous Vera follows, crashing through the roof like she did the floor. As the inferno blazes below, Lionel finally confronts his monstrous mother. She swallows him whole, giving Paquita a chance to escape. But inside, Lionel uses the protective pendant Paquita gave him to slice his way out, reborn, in a literal burst of gore. Vera lets out a monstrous scream and collapses into the flames. Her body burns and crumbles as the house collapses into ash. In the aftermath, Lionel and Paquita, drenched in blood, but still very much alive. They walk hand in hand into the night. It's over. Well, it's almost over. We get one last look at the zombie baby. Somehow the little zombified tot has survived, probably scooped up by some soon-to-be extremely traumatized firefighters. I mean, in reality, they would both likely be infected, having marinated in zombie blood and viscera, but as far as we know, it's only transmissible by bites, so happy ending, I guess? Before we wrap up the video, I want to send a special thanks to the channel members Trovoy Mercer, who's the newest channel member, Ginger S, U.S. Army Vet 91, Slayer Lee, and Skeptical Zach, who currently holds the record as the longest running member. Thank you all. Take care, have a great weekend, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.